Welcome to the Voyager podcast, hosted by Chris Fick and Brad Alexander, a show about authentic faith in unlikely places. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcast. We hope you're encouraged. Welcome back to the Voyager podcast. My name's Brad Alexander. I'm here with Chris the Fick.
What's up, Brad?
We're still recovering our crazy intros and not doing them anymore. But we are back with a new episode. We have a guest. We haven't had a guest in a while now. So that's exciting. It's kind of been the Chris Brad show the last probably 2 or 3 episodes, right?
I think so. Yeah. Gabriel's wasn't that long ago, but yeah.
I mean, the months escape us.
Right.
It feels like I got a lot of things I don't have time. But we have a guest today, and I want Chris to kind of cue up a little intro to talk about who we're talking to today.
Yeah. So it's actually someone we've been wanting to bring on the show for a while. We've been talking about it for over a year, I think, right?
Yes.
And become a good friend of mine. Met him at a pastor's conference many years ago. He reminded me that's where it was. I couldn't remember exactly how it all worked out. He said he found me sitting by myself, which sounds exactly right.
Yeah.
But he's got a name that I heard a lot before. Kind of like, you need to meet Mike. I think Kellen would talk about you, and then I just heard different people. You got to meet Mike. So Mike Neglia, originally from Fallbrook, and is missionary at Calvary Cork in Southern Ireland, correct?
Yes.
And but he grew up as part of the punk and hardcore scene, and we had a lot of mutual friends, and so it was kind of like one of those things where, like, if you guys meet, you'll hit it off. And so Mike's been out here for like 2 weeks, right?
Yes, 2 weeks.
It'll be a total of 20 days. But he actually got to share at Steadfast, and he did a great job talking about the Transfiguration. And so we're super stoked to have him. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thrilled to be here. Thrilled to be at Steadfast. 2 Sundays ago, early this morning, the 6:30 a.m. men's Bible study. That was great. And now
he made it to the 6:30 from Fallbrook.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I? It was a blessing. You are an inspirer of men. You are encouraging dads. It's a special thing. Thank you for investing in those guys.
Thanks for saying that, man.
I always get excited when the opportunity arises to talk to someone who kind of grew up in the punk and hardcore scene that's now walking with God, because I just feel like there's an authenticity that comes from coming from that scene because of some of the virtues that maybe like came from that scene. Yes. That were misplaced at times, yes, but later got used for the Lord. And, you know, my best friend Harvey lives in Tennessee now, but we were talking 2 days ago and we were laughing at, we're in a time now where when you bring up straight edge, you either get, what is that? It sounds lame. Or you get, oh yeah, I used to be like kind of straight edge. I just drank every so often. It's like, no, you do not understand it. It was a movement. Yes. You had to be there to understand it.
And if you're not now, you weren't then, and you never will be.
And we don't need you to think it's cool, by the way.
Yeah. But it just like growing up in the Southern California, even like New York, all that, but every hardcore scene, punk scene was different. And I think we had a special thing going in California in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it's fun to talk to people who came from that. Yeah, I'm excited to get into it today.
Yeah, I don't actually know your full background. I mean, I know you were part of, we've been at a bunch of the same shows in Fallbrook. Like there's house shows and church shows and all kinds of stuff like that.
For our listeners over yonder, Fallbrook is just inland from like Oceanside, Carlsbad, like somewhat. It's still kind of part of North San Diego, I would say.
It's on the other side of Camp Pendleton, basically, on the other side of the hills, right?
Yeah. We're the northernmost town in San Diego County. So there's like the border into the Inland Empire. There's like a border check, and we're beneath that.
It's a cool little area.
So we have no beach.
Kind of feels like a mountain town almost, like in the middle of North San Diego. It's kind of cool, yeah. But Mike, what's your kind of like your background? Like, how did your church background? Like, what does that look like? And then maybe you can even kind of like segue into your introduction to, you know, it's not just about like the hardcore scene, the punk scene, but we do find value in, you know,
what
those
was
stories.
The foundation as a kid?
You're right.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm so excited to talk about punk rock and stuff, but like I got to start earlier before that. Yes, I was born as a very young man and on December 29th, 1982. So I'm 42 years old at the time of this recording. So I was born in Fallbrook. They don't have a hospital anymore. The hospital got shut down. So I was born in Fallbrook, lived in Fallbrook 19 years of my life. And family was pretty consistent at making church most of the time. I want to be careful how I say this, but like it wasn't until much later in my life, seen in the life of my mom and my dad, that it seemed like they really loved Jesus and really were devoted to his word. I don't really think I experienced that too much until after I moved out of the house. So we were part of, I guess what people would just call maybe cultural Christianity, believing it because it's the good thing to do, it's the right thing to do, but it didn't come up. We prayed before meals, and then that was it. And it wasn't until, like I said, after I moved out that I think there was a real like renewal or revival in my dad's heart and my mom's life that I think, I don't know, there was a real surging forward in their spirituality, whereas I grew up in like a church attending house.
So are you already like in the punk scene when you get serious about your faith?
At birth? No.
No, but when you get like actually serious
you have to make a decision to be part
school.
of the punk scene. You're not born into it. You can't be infant baptized into into being punk rock.
Well, I didn't give my life to God till I was like 23.
Sure.
So my time in the hardcore scene, I was aware of like Sinai Beach and like certain Christian bands would come through, and I felt like we kind of more just tolerated them. It was like, yeah, it's cool. Like, say what you want to say. That's cool. But we don't agree with you. There was a lot of us that felt that way.
But Sinai Beach is so stinking heavy, though.
Yeah, and that's why we were okay. Because
and Falling Cycle
when
back
he
in the
would
day.
preach about things on stage, it was like, well, he really believes it, so that's cool. Mm-hmm. I don't believe it, but it's cool that he does. But even before that, as a non-believer in a dysfunctional like kind of upbringing, some of my favorite bands were like Slick Shoes, Dogwood, MXPX. We would listen to like Strung Out and Guttermouth and Lagwagon and other stuff too, like the skate punk scene. But there was Christianity around, but I felt like as I got older, all of my Christian friends weren't really Christian anymore. They were all kind of like promiscuous sexually and doing other stuff, and they weren't talking about their faith anymore. Being in the punk scene and getting serious about your faith in high school, did it feel like there was conflict there, or were you just like, no, I'm sold out to God. I don't even care what other people are doing?
Yeah, great question. Well, I suppose I was brought like again, as we mentioned, Fallbrook is not like this like epicenter of the world. It's a town that maybe you have to explain, a little bit about it. So my exposure to punk rock, I guess, was like a Green Day album when I was like in 5th grade.
That was my first CD.
I know. Yeah.
Dookie or Kerplunk?
Dookie. Yeah.
I wish I could say Kerplunk, but it was Dookie. Yeah. But maybe like a lot of my peers, like, oh, this is like a cool band. But for me, I was like, this is what I want. I want this for my life, and just this sense of like, oh, I wanna be and do, and that's what I want. And we had Backstage Records in Fallbrook, and so I'd go there and I would buy a tape. And this, obviously, I'm a 42-year-old man, so you bought tapes back then.
Yeah.
But and I could only afford, one every 2 weeks. And so I'd go there and I'd ask the guy for recommendations. And then I'd buy the tape. And then I would just unfold the lyric sheet. I would read every lyric, and then I would look at the bands would used to thank yous. They would acknowledge, and then they would thank other bands. And for me, I was like, aha, a clue. And then I would save up, and then I'd buy that next tape, So I did not have this older punk brother, this cousin who, I was just following this trail of breadcrumbs because I just, and again, Green Day, it's kind of an embarrassing on ramp, but it is what it is.
It wasn't back then.
Yes.
It was after the early 2000s.
Yes. Yeah, but 96 or whatever Dookie came out. But so I really wanted to be part of something. And I heard that this punk world was it actually was a community, and I felt just quite isolated, and so I wanted in. And so I'm from Green Day to Rancid to and out come the wolves.
Yeah.
such a perfect,
such a good album.
Yeah, nearly perfect. I think the first like 10, 12 tracks, and then there's some weak ones towards the end that it finishes strong.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, for me, it's like I liked the music, but I also like wanted to belong to something. And I also remember getting, it was like a zine. It was like a Victory Records kind of zine, and it was pretty much like promotional, like, you know. So there's interviews, but it also is like designed to kind of sell the things, you know. And I remember like going through this and then reading these interviews with these different bands, and it's like these worldviews are basically, they're kind of like on display. And like to read the interview with Earth Crisis, and they're describing this like veganism and straight edge and this lifestyle. And then, you know, this other, some rockabilly band, I've been trying to think of the name of the band, but they're there to have fun and to party and to rock and roll, you know. And then reading through this and being like, there's different ways to live. And then I gosh, it's so embarrassing, you know. But I remember like reading that alone in my over and over again, and then being like, I think I want to be straight edge, you know. Like that was like it's like I read about it in a catalog, and I was like, this is my life. I want this now. So nobody introduced me, and some people have cool stories of like whatever, the community, the brotherhood, bringing them in. I was just like, I opt in. I want in. I choose this for myself. You know, like Xing up, like to go to junior high school, and nobody knew what it was. Nobody thought it was cool, but I was like, this is who I am and who I will be.
I think that's even cooler in a lot of ways.
Thank you, Chris.
No, I do because I think it's not like a peer pressure. You go with the crowd, and all of a sudden you're just like, yeah, I guess I'm into that. Because there's a lot of people like that, and they don't last. I mean, obviously, straight edge isn't the gospel, but like there's something to where when you make the decision yourself, and you kind of come to that conclusion of like, no, actually, this is what I want to do. Like, I think that's a good thing. So don't hate your story on that end. I think it's noble, especially when I love when people are willing to do something when no one else will do it with you. That's actually like a sign of like true conviction. And I think that's one of the things I do love about the hardcore scene and even straight edge is conviction. Brad and I were talking about that a little bit too. Yeah. So sorry. Didn't mean to cut into your story because that's what bad podcasts.
Yeah. Thank you for telling me not to hate my story, but it feels a tiny bit cheesy. But the idea is like, I just want my life to count. I just want to be part of something important. I want to be in, you know? And so that's, you know, it's a strange thing for a 12-year-old or a 13, whatever. I can't do the math, you know, but like however old I was then, it's a strange thing, but it's like, I want my life to go in this certain direction. I want to be like part of this community, even though I didn't really even know the community or have the community yet, but it's like they exist and I'm in, you know?
Yeah, no, that's cool though. I feel like for me, like I went to Kappa Valley High School, and the straight edge kids there were like really intimidating, and I was drug free for a couple of years. So it's like you start dipping your toes, you know? But the Capo crowd largely, I felt like rejected me and my group of friends. We were like, in punk bands and playing shows with each other or whatever, and like going to shows, but the hardcore scene was a different thing. And when I started transitioning in, I felt like I got kind of rejected, but junior year I got sent to continuation school. And when I went to continuation school, the class I started in, a bunch of notable Dana Point straight edge kids were like in my introduction class, and they fully took me under their wing. And all of a sudden I'm like living at a kid in Dana Point's house who like had been in the scene forever, you know? He's like showing me Wrench albums and all this stuff. It was cool, but I feel like a lot of us, I mean, Chris has told his story on it, but it's like, if you're already kind of going that way and you see the camaraderie and the bond and people that stand for something and the shows, and especially South Orange County, going to a Throwdown show was like an experience. It was like, oh, we're all in it together. It was a counterfeit of the church in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are, you know, this is a family.
Yeah.
I count on you.
You count on me.
And you count on me.
Yeah. You used the language of misplaced virtue earlier on, and I'd love to kind of come back. That's an insightful way. And again, who knows? Like maybe there's hardcore. I was gonna say hardcore kids, hardcore middle-aged men and women that are listening.
40 somethings.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, with no demeaning of it. Like I actually think. Sometimes people, you know, because I hang out with a bunch of normies all the time, and they're like, "Oh, you must have had like a really rough thing," or "I'm so glad the Lord saved you out of that." And I've said I actually thank God for punk rock, and I thank God for like the way that like it was like a pretty not exclusively, but it was like a positive influence on my life. And I think like we talk about like how it's like shaped us for better or for worse, but like what a beautiful community to be part of that I honestly like I don't have a ton of regret about.
100%. I agree.
I just got there recently.
Really?
Yeah, I told Chris the other day, when I tell my testimony, a lot of times I've painted that era of my life as a bad thing because I sold out and everyone turned on me. And I was depressed. I didn't sell out because I was like, oh, it's cool to do this or that. I sold out because I got cheated on and I wanted to die. So I self-sedated. And then my chosen family rejected me. And it was only recently that God really showed me the things that were instilled in me in that scene and how he used it in my life. It's easy to look at some of the negative aspects and paint the whole thing as that. But it's like, dude, I still have friends that are still around and I still talk to them. And it came from that scene of people. And when I left home and was like an orphan in the world, whose couches was I sleeping on? Whose floors was I sleeping on? Who gave me a place to shower, a place to eat? It was my straight edge friends. So it's like, it was a good thing in my life, but it was complicated for me, I guess.
Yeah.
And recently I realized, man, God used all that. There's bad actors in every scene. And there were some people that were bad actors. They were very militant, and it became like, we don't have compassion for your situation. It's just you violated the requirements for the cause, and you're going to pay the price. But that wasn't everyone. But that's how I talked about it for a long time.
Okay.
It's like, that scene rejected me. It's like, no, they didn't. Like 3 people rejected you, but those 3 people were scary.
Yeah. And then jumping worlds. I mean, how many people that we talk about and they have, legitimate church hurt, the church hurt me. And maybe you could say, hey, likewise, did the church hurt you or did 3 guys hurt you?
Completely agree.
Yeah, it's like if you have a bad experience at a coffee shop, do you sign off on all coffee shops for the rest of your life? So that's an outlier, or it should be at least. And that's definitely not what the mission statement is of coffee shops or whatever. Yeah.
But what the premise of Voyager was from the start was like at youth group, us having conversations. And it's like all of the people from back then talking about all the bands, like a lot of the people that found the Lord went all in. And it is something that's cool because if you would go all in on like not doing drugs or like certain things like that.
Tattooing your whole body.
Yeah. If you're in a scene where like conviction matters, then when you find God and you find a place to put that trust and that faith in something that like really breeds fruit, a lot of the people from that scene that go that way, they're like, I'm sincere about this. I'm all in. I want to understand this. And I think there's like a beautiful thing that comes out of that scene.
It's pure heart. Like we read this in First Timothy today, like pure conscience, pure heart. Like it's like, there's no guile in it. It's like, I say this to you because I care and I believe. And even like you were saying that you sent me like a Have Heart video and it's like them talking about straight, just like, we love you. We don't care. Like, just go. Like, if you're not down with our message, then leave. We don't care. We're down. This is what we are bleeding this.
The passion is intoxicating. Yes. You're just like, I want to be back in that scene. And you're like, wait, no, I don't. I'm good. But
no, because we have a better message. But that's the same. There's like the same, I don't know if intensity, but we were meant to be about that, be that passionate about the message of the gospel.
Yeah.
So,
and it's a community that kind of like breeds. I mean, extremism is the wrong word, but again, I was vegan at 14. I was like out protesting outside of Burger King. I was donating money to the ALF, the Animal Liberation Front. Like it's like,
dang.
It's like that is just like
you really liked Earth Crisis.
I actually didn't like Earth Crisis that much. I
love Earth Crisis.
They got like
Firestorm might be the greatest hardcore song of all time.
Yeah, I know. And then the other ones, but like okay.
Gamora season.
Earth Crisis, for me, it was just an interview about a way of life that was compelling to me. And then I listened. I'm like, wow, this is kind of like a little cheesy. Sorry, no, but I got super into kind of like crust punk and like the peace. Like, so I was like hardcore adjacent, but I was really into kind of like the whole punk, like the punk rock or the 80s anarcho punk. That was my jam. But people just don't like dabble in it, or at least I didn't dabble in it. You're just like all in, full send, as my young nephew said, like full send, you're in this, you're vegan, you're protesting, you're doing this. I was, I really embraced like the message of animal rights. And so I like at my high school, I was like passing out leaflets about like why you should stop eating meat and like trying to convince the vegetarians that I knew that's not enough. You need to also stop, having eggs and dairy as well. And here's why. And, meat is murder, dairy is rape, all these messages that I was like constantly going. So I've been a preacher and an evangelist long before I was a Christian.
Yes.
So I was just like, I found this message that was for me like life-giving, literally life-giving, because I'm saving animals. So I was all in on this, and just like, I think there's something that maybe young men, maybe I just needed to live for something. I need to have like a purpose, beyond just like go to the next party or do this or get buzzed or, but just like, I wanted to save the world. And I knew that like, there's this body of truth. Yeah, there's a body of truth that needs to get out there. There's a community of people that buy into it. You have even like your code of conduct that you live by, and then as this community, you want to like get this out there. And so, again, like the misplaced virtue, counterfeit church, but it was something that, although it was pointed in maybe the wrong direction, I think that there is, like I said, something beautiful in that. And then my life has kind of paralleled that, and I think I've just upgraded to the ultimate truth and the real community and the message that does need to get out of the Christian message.
And I think that's because you care. I think that the message, the animal rights thing is not a show. You actually did care. I remember Tommy Green, who we've had on the podcast, and he's a heartfelt like evangelist in the hardcore scene. Like he bleeds. But I remember him saying, "Can you come to my house? I want to show you something." And it was a video on animal rights, and he was crying, talking to me about it. And I just was like, I had just eaten at Carl's Jr. like right before I came over. I felt like the worst person
digesting a cow.
Oh, exactly. Man. I was like, oh gosh. And I also was not compelled to like go with them on it, but I just would like, you're almost convinced because of the passion. Fast forward a couple of years, and he's doing it from the stage for Jesus. He had all that in him. And so I think all of this works really well together. And I think it's an awakening because the world's so almost sedated, and people aren't passionate about anything. They kind of just want to go with the flow and be like everybody else and just kind of like, whatever, numb out and cruise and whatever. And it's like, that is not allowed in the punk and the hardcore scene. Like, you've got to be different. Like, you have to be willing to be different and stand out. And it's almost like you find virtue in that. Like, I don't care. I don't want to be like you. Everybody else is like this. I don't want that. So, and that's something that as a Christian, you have to be okay with that too.
Yes.
It takes a lot of confidence to do some of that stuff too. There's like an old Murder City Devils song, Dear Heart, and it's like, I've got a preacher's mouth with a rock and roll heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's awesome when some of us, it's like, I've got a little bit of a rock and roll mouth, but I've got a preacher's heart. The flip happens. I used to evangelize, but in my heart was like all these other things. And now it's like, no, my heart's sold out to God. It's just sometimes I may sound a little bit gritty. Yeah. When that flip happens, it's beautiful. Tommy's a great example of that too. It's
I've said that exact same line to my wife, the Murder City Devil song. Yeah. And she looked at me and she's like, that's so cheesy.
Dude, I love that line.
She's wrong.
Yeah.
So where does this go for you?
I'm kind of, it's hard to tell like your life story because like I got 42 years of life, you know, and then especially I've lived 49% of my life in Fallbrook and then 51% of my life in a different country. We'll get to that later on. Yeah. But like it's hard to even like think of those things. And on the drive here, I'm trying to like even just think like, what do I say? And you know, is it chronologically or is it ideologically? But there was an older, you know, a year or two older than me. His name was Seth Boren, a guy who went to my high school. And he was like into punk rock. He was a drummer. And also like he had a faith in the real Jesus that I'd never really kind of seen lived out by a peer in such a way. Again, there's like Sunday school teachers or religious people or, you know, like parents that would have, you know, they'd say the right things, but then it really didn't seem to live it out. There was, you know, kind of a scandal in the Lutheran church that we were a part of. The pastor had an affair with my friend's mom and then they left, you know, and when it comes to like scandals and abuse, like that's kind of also on like the I hate to say, kind of the lower end. I know that there's far, far worse. That was a consenting adult, 2 consenting adults, but like rotten things that I saw that made me be very disenchanted with like this, Christianity. And then to see like actual real convictions, people that were vegan who didn't cheat. When I was vegan, I never cheated once, When I was straight edge, I never cheated once. Apparently people cheat.
No straight edge vacations.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, it's all in, and then I just saw like, well, Christians aren't all in, there's all that type of stuff. And then to then contrast that with the actual convictions, and then those worlds collided with Seth Boren. Hi, Seth. Maybe you're listening. Where he had like a real heart for God, and then he was patient with me. He spent time with me. He like listened to my like rants. He would answer my questions. He would also have the humility, like, I don't really know that. He was such a vital part of my life and my experience. I started getting in trouble in school. I got in a fight with a Nazi in school, got suspended.
Yeah, you did.
And then, yeah, because Fallbrook has a lot of like white supremacy in it as well too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, famous Tom Metzger. He's since passed away. He was like a very famous white supremacist who lived in Fallbrook, and so there actually was kind of a large, not skinhead influence, but just like white supremacy influence in Fallbrook. And so I just found one of them and picked a fight, and didn't really win the fight, but I felt in my heart that I did because I was whatever. So got in trouble with school, and then suspended again for something else. And my parents said, like, we gotta make you go to church more. Like, I started going to the church that Seth went to, and there was a Wednesday night youth group that it was kind of like my punishment, or like my parents like rehab. They're sending me this Wednesday night youth group, and who should be leading that youth group but Danny Ramos.
Oh, yeah.
Danny Ramos is just like this godly Mexican man, I used to think he was like such an old guy. Turns out he's probably like as old as I am right now. But he was so kind, so loving, so wise, and, just like didn't talk down to us like we're a bunch of like dumb idiots, but like just like communicated God's word. And I thought myself as a pretty intellectual guy, I was reading like Chomsky and Zen and Peter Singer. So I was like reading philosophy, and wasn't interested in like youth groups that were like they're eating goldfish, on 2 different levels. I objected to that.
Right,
Number 1, patronizing. Number 2, you just murdered a goldfish,
Right.
Like so, but it was just like this like simple Bible focused, read the Bible, explain it. And over a period of a year or so of going to that youth group, I loved when Danny would talk, when Danny would open the Bible and talk about it. I just loved it so much. I hated worship. I hated worship so much. I thought it was disingenuous. They would sing like, when the world has seen the light, they will dance with joy like we're dancing now. But they're not dancing.
They're not dancing.
And then they'd sing about lifting their hands, and they're not lifting their hands. And then they'd sing about like, my whole life is devoted to God. I'm like, these people aren't devoting their whole life to God. So again, I'm just like, I'm kind of a purist. I'm a bit of an, I've been radicalized, but then also like the idea too, and this is a reference that maybe only the Voyager listeners would understand. I was like, these songs are so long. They're the length of an ISIS song, but they have the lyrics of a Locust song, So they would just like have a few lyrics and they just repeat it ad nauseum over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like, they don't even mean it. And then over the course of that year of like Wednesday nights of going there, being captivated by the Bible, being captivated by the truth of God's word, but like I didn't know if I wanted to give my heart to this Jesus yet, And it actually like it kind of I don't know exactly when I got saved. I don't know when it happened, but I do know that I started to sing along. And I would kind of mute myself for there were certain songs that I wouldn't sing those because I wasn't sure if I meant those lyrics. And there was some things that's like, take my life and form it, take my heart and conform it to your will, And I wouldn't sing. I don't want my heart to be conformed to anyone's will. I want to be the master of my own destiny, And then I just remember one night like singing that and wanting it and meaning it. Because I guess I put a lot of,
wow.
I thought the words we sing are important. Like, the lyrics from bands shaped my life. And then I also didn't want to just like mouth words that I didn't mean. And I just remember like singing certain songs for the very first time, almost like catching myself. And it's like, I think I believe this now. And I think I want to follow Jesus for all of my life. And so it's been, to some degree, full send ever since. Yeah.
But how damaging that is to your soul to say something that you don't really believe, but being honest and real with yourself, and then being able to say like, no, I actually do believe this and I will sing this. I like that. That's such a punk approach to like coming to church. This is why it's so important, I think, too, I think this is why having people like this in the church are so important, because a lot of what the church is known for right now is disingenuous. Like it's kind of like just fake. And so having people who really do like, wait, why do we even do that? Like, what's the point? I remember hearing someone praying all the time for hedge of protection around people. And I'm like, what is that? And I didn't realize it was actually in the Bible. And my pastor was like, hey, actually, that's in the Bible. He's like, but I like that you asked that question. Yeah. Because you start hearing things all the time and it just becomes part of like the vocabulary or part of the, the exercise or whatever. And it's like, always ask that question, because you never know when something slipped in and it doesn't belong, or you don't really think it. So anyway, side note, but I think that's a really valuable thing for people to think about too.
Yeah. And music specifically, I think there's a reason that God has singing and music around his throne.
Yeah.
There's something, I've said it a bunch of times. It's like, when we were at that thing and that guy was playing Wagon Wheel, the acoustic set, and we just happened to be there. And I'm like, I kind of like this song, but if you were to read the lyrics, you're like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, rock me mama like a wagon wheel. What does that mean? But when it's saying, it's like the melody and it feels profound. There's a lot of music where it's like, it evokes emotion, whereas if you just read the lyrics, it would not.
Yeah.
And especially when you're like really vibing out on lyrics or even singing them, it's like that means something.
It's like an agreement. Yeah.
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 And again, to go back to me as a 13-year-old, like buying a tape, like laying on my bed, reading the lyrics, like I guess lyrics have always been, quite important to me. And they do, again, fast forward all these years later, I've just kind of like I've rediscovered dystopia, and like, gosh, they're so good. But those lyrics are so bad, so negative, And so I do like to kind of, dip in, but not linger too long, because there's some dark, bleak stuff out there as well too.
So you are now singing the worship songs.
Yes.
And how does that end up? I'm moving to Ireland.
Right.
And now I have a family.
You texted me, you asked, how has punk shaped me in positive and negative? So like, I think some of the positives, it's like, it awakened my life that like truth matters. People are lying out there, or people are apathetic, and people need to like care about the truth. And again, it's not just that there's like an individual sage who is enlightened. It's a community of people, and I do love, at its best, punk and hardcore is a welcoming community. At its worst, it's cliquish, just like everything else. But there's the capacity for that. And for me, like being like pulled into like a world of like activism, a world of like, like if something's wrong, fix it. If someone is walking in ignorance, inform them. Like that's something that at a very young age really resonated with me and or shaped me to be who I am. And yeah, like you were talking about, like you were kind of like rejected by the straight edge kids, but then kind of welcomed by the different crowd,
Yeah.
So I can also shout out Spencer Gooch. So Spencer Gooch, that's his real name. Spencer Gooch lived in Fallbrook, went to the same high school. He's a couple years older than I was. He was a senior when I was a freshman. So when I was like at my dorkiest, he sang in a band called Anti-Krats. He went on to be in Find Him and Kill Him and Suspects. I don't know if you but like he was like really involved at the Shea Cafe. He booked most of the shows at the Shea Cafe. Yeah, so like a real mover and shaker. And so I'm this dorky 14-year, and then he is like in whatever, cool bands, booking shows, involved in the Shea Cafe collective. And he made me a mixtape. This is different than sending a Spotify link. He made me a mixtape that was like 90 minutes long, no repeats of bands, like, and it was like, hey, I see that you're kind of into this like punk and hardcore stuff. Let me give you like a kind of a primer of like what you need to know. So it had from Gorilla Biscuits to Spaz to Man is the Bastard to all these other, like, it was like this full swath of everything. And it was just kind of like, hey, Mike, I want to like introduce you to like
discipling you.
God, yeah. and then it was even like, you know, like inviting me to shows to go see like Citizen Fish and Stratford Mercenaries at the Soma in San Diego back when it, you know, like it was a welcome into the community. Like, it's not about you in your parents' house flipping through a Victory Records fanzine. It's like, I want you to be part of this. I want to help you.
That's cool.
Yeah, very cool. And like, and actually me and Spencer have been back in touch lately, and it's exciting. Hi, Spencer. But like, I love that notion of like, he's not gatekeeping, you know. Some could, and some would look at some dork, you know. But he's just like, no, this guy he's uninitiated, and I want to bring him in. And, you know, I think the parallels to, you know, the church or Christianity like are fairly obvious on that. But, you know, it's like, instead of just like rolling your eyes at somebody who's floundering around, it's like, well, this person is uninitiated, uninstructed, you know, unencouraged.
The Redlands kids did that too. Like, they'd bring kids, because you'd see the kids that were like undiscipled, and they'd come into the scene and they didn't know what was what. Yeah. And they were kind of like a joke, and
they're push moshing.
And they're dangerous, kind of. Like, the Redlands scene always had older kids, and they'd bring them in. They'd be like, all right, you got to learn Firestorm and have it memorized. All right, you've got to learn this Gorilla Biscuits album.
Yes.
All right. And it was kind of like this thing where it's like, it's almost like the creeds. Like, if you can learn this, then you know what it's about. And you've kind of got a little bit of like, even though you're from a newer era, you're connected to the older era. Mm-hmm. You've got your church history aligned and stuff. But the difference was unbelievable, because you had a scene that had culture involved in it. There's so many, you know, parallels to the church and how that plays out, and I that's really cool. Yeah. Way to go, Spencer Gooch.
Spencer Gooch, and then one more. So I was in, you know, I sang for like 3 different punk bands, you know, and like none of us, we never went anywhere, you know. But like living in Fallbrook, being in a punk band, sitting around waiting for somebody to invite you to play a show, and then it's like, you know what? Actually, that's not going to happen. And again, it's like everybody wants to be the lead singer. Nobody wants to book shows. And so that was something that I kind of saw a need. I was like, well, hey, it's like this DIY culture. It's like, well, who's going to do it yourself? Who's going to book shows? And so I just realized, like, well, my contribution to the scene isn't necessarily going to be like, well, I sing in this band. But it's like, oh, someone needs to book shows. Somebody needs to get bands to come to Fallbrook. Somebody needs to organize these things. And so I booked like dozens of shows in Fallbrook, because I thought that's actually what we need. And I saw my contribution, and again, I book my own bands in those shows too. It's not necessarily like I need to be upstate on the stage, and sometimes I wouldn't be on the. But it's like I need to create a place, literally, to give a stage to somebody else, like literally, and to create a place for people to come to in our town, because I wanted to see like the scene flourish. And that's been something that I think is an important aspect of like my life now. It's not about me being on stage, but like
community creating.
Yes, yeah. So I've been preaching a gospel. I've been creating community. I've been evangelizing for so long, and then I've been coming to meet Jesus has then just like reinvigorated and changed the charisma, changed the proclamation. But that's
And you'd bring, and then people would come. I remember driving from Redlands to shows in Fallbrook, and
I booked those shows.
Getting to Fallbrook and going like, where are we?
Yeah.
But because there was a place for us, we would drive an hour and a half just to be there. To find shows was so valuable, you know, like to find a show where you can go, and especially you knew some of the bands and stuff like that. And so creating something that the whole community is blessed by. Mm-hmm. And people will drive a long way for that. Yeah. I mean, they will go to great lengths, hop in the cars. I remember stopping at the McDonald's in Temecula. We're almost there. Go to the bathroom, and then you get into Fallbrook, you know?
Wow.
You know what feels kind of different about late 90s, early 2000s that I don't know if it's going on now? All of the early shows we went to were hosted at churches, and some of them were not Christian shows.
Yeah.
But churches like would open themselves up to be used as a venue on Friday nights or Saturday nights. So it's like, I did see like Dogwood and East West and like bands like that in churches, but Dude, I want to say that like Thrice played churches in the early days, but then later I remember like bleeding through and like people coming through like St. Killian's Church, and you're like, what are they doing at a Catholic church?
We played with Bleeding Through, Death Star. We played with Bleeding Through at the church in Dana Point on the hill, the Catholic church.
I think a fight broke out and closed that show down.
Probably.
But that's probably what stopped the shows at that venue.
I wonder why they don't do it anymore.
Yeah, why'd they stop doing it?
And now, like, running a church, you're like, absolutely not.
You're like, I work too hard to keep this place clean, man.
Yeah, it was like bless those youth pastors that took risks in the late 90s. Yeah. So I became a Christian eventually, and then I moved to Ireland. So that's
which is like everyone's
got married, had 3 kids.
Yeah, and we're out of time
and all that. It's like, oh man, if I go all in for God, is he gonna like send me to Africa? And it's like, you're not in Africa, but you're in a severe time difference. You left everything you know to go somewhere.
Yeah.
That I don't know if you had been there before or how it came to be that you're in Ireland. But
I did a very short visit in 2001. But then in 2003, I moved there unbeknownst to me. I was moving there, for the rest of my life, or for at least 21 years of my life. So I went to Marietta Bible College, Calvary Chapel Bible College, when I was like finishing up my final year of high school. I had 2 paths in front of me. Number one was like, I didn't have the grades to get to college, I like graduated by the skin of my teeth, and there's like, well, I could do 2 things. I can hop trains, live the crust punk lifestyle, as a Christian, like maybe I'll be like a missionary to the other crust punks, or go to Calvary Chapel Bible College. And I applied. It was my one and only application. On the application, it was like list the 3 Christian books that influenced you. And I was like, but besides the Bible, and I was like, I didn't even know there were Christian books outside of the Bible. I had nothing. But yeah, I got that, and I remember like getting that, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not going to be a homeless train hopper. I'm going to go to Calvary Bible College, and so I did 3 semesters there. I was dating this girl, Seth Boren's little sister. I was dating Rachel, on again, off again, really like dramatic, hyper spiritualized, we're like new, Christians. We're like, well, during worship at youth group, it talked about surrendering all. And so maybe that means I need to break up with you. So like, we were like this very dramatic. We're dating for like 5 years, or 4 years. And then even at Bible college, it was this on again, off again relationship, super dramatic. A guy by the name of David Guzik came. He spoke at one of our chapel services. He said that he was going to be starting an extension campus in Germany. And so if you want to get in on the ground floor, you can sign up. And then I guess nobody signed up. And then he like came back a while later and was like, all right, we're going to offer like a discounted rate if you want to come. And then it was announced like basically whatever the flight costs are to get there, we'll just deduct that from tuition.
We'll pay you to go to this school.
It was just shy of that. That combined with, again, like Rachel and I were just like, we were so distracted and distracting to each other and by each other. We're like, you know what? Like, let's just like take a break. And even though we'd taken so many breaks, but then we'd keep on like falling in love all over again and, hugging off campus and all. Bible college students know all that, the off campus hugs. But basically it was like, we need to actually have a break. And I got to go to Germany. We'll go no contact. We'll just like pray, seek the Lord, and then we'll either get married or we'll break up. And so I went to Germany, not because like I was like passionate about Germany or anything, but it was like to get away from this girl. And so I went there. It was fantastic, really, literally life-changing. David Guzik became and to some degree remains like a mentor in my life, and finished that up. Called Rachel from a payphone and said, I love you. I want to marry you. Do you want to marry me? And she said, yep. And then so we got married later on.
No kidding.
We got married in a fever, hotter than a pepper sprout. So that happened. And then it was essentially like, well, I really want to be like a hitchhiking bum. That's like my dream. And I'm not going to be able to now. So I spent the summer hitchhiking around Europe, and I made it to London, and then like just hitchhiked like up the UK. I picked weeds for some stranger and got paid money, and that was like just enough money to like buy a overnight ferry from like Liverpool to Belfast and that's Northern Ireland, and then just like hitchhiked around Ireland. Came to the city of Cork, and long story short, knocked on the door of Calvary Chapel, Cork, and said, "God sent me here. Do you have anything for me to do?" The pastor gave me a stack of tracts and said, "I don't know, go hand these out." And so I did, and it went well. And then, long story short, he asked me if I wanted to stay for like another couple weeks, and then stay for the rest of the summer, and then stay for the rest of the year. And then went back to California in December, got married in January. In February, Rachel and I came back to Ireland, and then kind of helped out in kind of an assistant capacity at this very small church called Calvary Chapel, Cork. And then the pastor said that he was going to move to New Zealand. The church was so small, it was like, well, we'll just maybe we'll shut it down and we'll all go our separate ways. Or, Mike, if you want to be pastor, I guess you could be pastor, and you could kind of give it a shot for another year or so and see what happens. And then so they moved away, we stayed, and then it's been a 21-year journey from there. That's is like awesome. Super condensed. I have so much to say about punk rock, and like I'm going to condense my life into like a 45-second blurb.
I know we have Mike
sure
out
your wife will
for a
love
very
that.
short time.
So my takeaway is I was trying to get away from you until all of a sudden I knew I was supposed to marry you. Just kidding.
It makes for a good story.
Yeah. We were a dramatic, hyper spiritualized teenagers. We listened to too many Keith Green songs, and we got like really influenced. Joshua Harris's book, I Kissed Dating Goodbye, and then the sequel, what was it?
I Gave Dating a Chance or something?
No, it was, the sequel was something about courtship. So that really influenced us a lot, that you were supposed to you're not supposed to go on a date with anybody unless you know that like it's God's plan for your life. And so that imported a lot of emotional weight. So it's not that we don't like each other. We've always liked each other, we've always wanted to be with each other, but then had this again, weird Christian culture that made a simple thing like just dating a girl and falling in love, made it very weird. That's another podcast episode.
Next time we have you out, I want to do a deep dive on a lot of this stuff and family and everything. And I know we just don't have time today, but I do love so much of what's coming out of you is not wanting to do anything half-hearted. Everything is what's the point unless I'm serious about this? What's the point unless I'm serious about this? And whether the punk hardcore scene creates that, or it just, I think, creates an area for people who are like that.
Yeah.
But I was telling my wife, because, man, I left my parents' house, my mom and stepdad's house at 17 with a backpack of clothes and no money in my pocket, and just said, I'll figure it out because I don't want to be here anymore. Mm. And I'm like, there's a certain kind of person that's willing to I'm going to leave here and I have no idea how I'm going to figure it out. Hearing you traveling around Europe doing that, way more extreme. But there's a lot of people, I think, that came from the scene of people that we did more or less different sectors, but that scene that it's I'm ready to tackle the world and I'll figure it out. And I want to be real about things, but I'm not afraid of life. And I think it's really cool. And I'm not saying only people out of the scene are like that. When we were straight edge, we were smacking cigarettes out of people's mouths and being horrible about it. But it's yeah, that wasn't good, but we believed what we believed at that time. It was we're so serious about this that yeah.
And whether you're from that or not, I mean, you're supposed to be like that as a believer. You're supposed to care. It matters. So we're oh, well, I'm not really from that, so I don't really think that way. No, that's not. This is how you're supposed to live. And it's actually the most fulfilling, because otherwise you're something so draining about doing things half, and not caring and having no passion. It's whatever you have, you pass it on around you. So if you don't really care, you can imagine the people around you won't care either. If you're passionate, you'll find one, passionate people will be attracted to you. The other one is people who aren't passionate will find passion and they desire that. That's something that people are looking for. Like, I'm trying to find my passion. I do street art, or I do this or that. Or it's like, all right, cool. Like, let me connect you with the creator that created you to do something really great and really good that actually matters, that you use the passion that he's put inside of you for the purpose that it was created for. There's nothing better than that. So, couple things.
Yes.
So Calvary Cork is where you pastor, and it's going well. I saw the building looks awesome. I like your logo too, by the way.
Thank you. Alex Boren designed it.
That's really good. Yeah, he's a designer.
Yes.
And Expositors Collective, that's something that you do. There's a podcast that's, how many episodes have you guys done?
367. The 368th came out yesterday. Yes.
Yeah, let's see. So you're not usually on this side of the mic.
I'm so nervous. Like, you have made me feel at ease, but like driving here, I was like such a nervous wreck. I hate being interviewed. I hate being on panels. I hate being interviewed.
Well, you did a good job. And Expositors Collective is awesome. Your guys' passion is to teach people how to study and preach the Bible, teach the Bible.
Personal study, public proclamation of God's word. Yeah. I made a kind of a joke, like crass logo, and it's personal study, public proclamation instead of fight war.
I love that.
Sorry, it's a reference that like 4 people get.
Yeah, exactly.
I also made a black flag logo of Calvary Cork with the Calvary Cork and the bars.
Did you really?
Yeah. There's a t-shirt of it, and like, one and a half people will get it.
At our men's conference, we'll have Henry Rollins speak.
Oh man,
like I can do spoken word. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So yeah, what else? What else would you want to say in closing here? What else are you involved in? I know.
Well, yeah, I'm involved in a lot of stuff, and that's okay. So you talk about, we don't want to be half-hearted about things. But then the older we get, the more opportunities that we have to be involved in things. And there's less of us to give, it almost feels like. Or I guess there's a limited amount of us to give, and there's multiplied opportunities to give it to. And that's maybe just something I'm trying to be wise about. Even this trip to California, like this time last year, we usually come to California every like January, February for a couple of weeks. We come to enjoy the beautiful Southern California sunshine while it is freezing cold in Ireland.
It's raining right now.
It's raining today, yeah. But I mean, but this time last year, I really messed up as like a husband, as a dad, because I was here, but I was also like filming a video course for Expositors Collective, and then I was driving to Orange County for this, and I was like trying to cram in as many interviews as I could, and really just like kind of drop the ball as far as like being present and all that. This is the second and the only interview that I'm doing over these 20 days that we're here. So what am I trying to give myself to? Like, I want to be a good dad and a good husband while I'm here. That's my number one goal. I also have, responsibilities. I get to serve on the Calvary Global Network executive team. We're working on like our annual pastors conference next, so that who knows, you could sit there by yourself and someone else can come up and say, hi, a place for you to be alone at.
We bring people now, so that'll never happen again. So,
so involved. Yeah, I think, God's doing good things through the Calvary Global Network, and I'm like honored to be a part of that and be a voice like steering and stewarding what God's done through like the history of Calvary Chapel. Like you mentioned, Expositors Collective, like we have a podcast. It's every week. You guys are so smart not doing this every week. It becomes a bit of a challenge.
We tried to for a while.
It's a lot,
We're
man.
like, that is a season. We're done.
It was hard.
Yeah, we haven't ever stopped. It's been, again, maybe it's just a Mike Neglia thing. You just don't stop, Because I feel if I ever go to every second week, that's just going to be the inevitable thing, is I'm just going to quit.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's got to be every Tuesday. If it's not every Tuesday, then I'm going to quit. But you guys have something called like moderation or self-control, or the ability to do things wisely.
Brad has 3 films coming out at once.
Yeah.
We had, anyway, but yeah. Well, it's a lot of great resources there, so people can find you.
So if anyone has ever taught the Bible, or you want to get better as a Bible teacher, we're coming to Colorado in April. We do like this 2-day training event. It's for like experienced preachers, or like youth, like new youth interns or women's Bible study directors. Like we want to like help you grow in your personal study, public proclamation of God's word. And we have a podcast every Tuesday, and I interview like scholars and authors. I'm looking on your bookshelf. There's people that I've interviewed that have written some of these books, and just talk about like, you know, like how do you grow as a Bible teacher? What are mistakes that you used to make, and how have you improved? So it's kind of like an on-ramp every Tuesday to like increase the capacity to study the Bible and communicate it better.
Dude, we're so honored that you chose to come and speak at Steadfast and to do our podcast, especially with your limited time. This was hard to navigate, and we did it.
This was like a year and a half in the making,
I'm so glad we did it, though.
Because you don't do Zoom interviews.
We have done it, and we could do it. Maybe part 2 could be a Zoom interview. I don't know. Thanks for making the time, man. This was, I think, a really fruitful conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was stoked on it. So thanks a lot, Mike.
Man, it didn't go half. I was so, again, like I said, so nervous. I was imagining all the worst things, and not one of them happened.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks to everyone who tuned in. We hope it was a fun listen for you and a blessing, and encouraged you to take your walk with God, maybe serious in certain areas that maybe you feel like in the past you've been lackluster with. I know we all have seasons like that, so give yourself grace if you are there. But
good point.
I hope, you know, people got something out of this conversation, and I hope it fired you up to be like, man, maybe here I'm going to take studying more serious, or I'm going to take time with my kids more serious, or whatever it is. But I hope it's been an encouragement and a blessing. And we're thankful that we got Mike on after we've been talking about doing this since probably episode 3 or 4, which was
He's been on the short
while
list
ago now. But yeah, we're thankful you came, and thanks for everyone who listened, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Thanks, Mike.
A joy.
Thanks for tuning into the Voyager Podcast. If you'd like to reach out, you can reach us through Instagram at the Voyager Podcast. We hope this has been encouraging for you. Until next time.